I mean, obviously, getting started is getting started, but this is brand new for you. Just talk about your excitement level heading into your first season at the helm.
Well, to me, the season starts today. And quite honestly, our guys have come back in great shape. They did a great job of training and staying in good baseball shape over Christmas break. And on January 6th, when we were able to start conditioning and our skill work segment, our guys hit the ground running, and we're in really good shape. And, we've gotten all our fundamental work out of the way, the ground balls, the BPs, the fly balls, catching bullpens, throwing bullpens. Now it's time to cross the white lines and compete against each other and solidify some jobs going into February 19th and just getting ready for opening day. But I feel like we're in season right now. Our guys are chomping at the bit to get out here today and compete.
Is it safe to say that what you really have to work on is finding a rotation, a back end heading these next few weeks?
A big part of what you do at this time of the year, especially with a young and unproven pitching staff for the most part outside of a handful of guys, is we want to match these guys up and force them to compete against each other to win jobs. Clade is going to go against Charlie, and they're going to go toe to toe today, and those guys are fighting for Friday and Saturday, and we've got a number of other guys that are fighting for Sunday and midweek, and we want to find out who is our first guy out of the bullpen, who's our long relievers, short relievers, lefty matchup guys, closer. All those roles have to be defined, and we have an idea of who we think will be the guys in those spots. But again, you better do it right here and now when you start inter-squadding, because the season's here in 3 weeks. So positionally, we're a little deeper. We have a little better idea who's going to play where there. But pitching-wise, these guys got to compete against each other and earn the right to get on the mound.
Short of the scoreboard or ERA, raw stats, what do you look for in Charlie versus Clayton, all those matchups?
I don't look so much at the line. I don't look so much at the line this time of year. The big thing I'm looking for is pitch execution. Because I know, early in this time of year, we're going to come right after these hitters with fastballs. They're going to mix some pitches, but our hitters know that a majority of the pitches that are coming across the plate are going to be fastballs, so they typically will get hit some. But the big thing that I'm looking for is, when we call a fastball away, do you execute the fastball away? When we call it in, do you get it in? When you get ahead of the hitter, can you put him away? And that's the big thing, is do you execute pitches? Because if you execute pitches, you have a chance to have a quality start. And if we execute pitches, then, there should be a lot of balls put in play with weak contact. We should play pretty good defense behind that. So, to me, it all goes hand in hand. I'm just looking for guys to execute pitches and see how they shake out.
Personally, what's the day like for you?
Oh, geez. I mean, I don't know. I'm very excited for this weekend. I mean, there's just a lot going on this weekend. You look back, I think it was June 18th, when I got hired, and I said, golly, I can't wait until the first fall practice. And then when that went by, now you're like, geez, the spring will be here before you know it, and I can't wait until our first spring practice. And so today it's an awesome feeling, because you've got great weather. Our guys have worked so hard to get to this point. We've got our baseball banquet tomorrow night, so our fans get to come out and meet the guys, and it's just a big weekend for us. We got kids coming in to watch our inter-squads this weekend, recruits. It's just a big weekend, so very, very excited for me. Very grateful to be here and to have this opportunity, and just can't wait to see our guys compete this weekend.
Who are you looking at right now for the third rotation spot? Have you narrowed it down at all?
That's a good question. There's a number of guys that I could see filling into that 3 spot. We've got 2 freshmen that really have stood out early on, in Brooks Crawford and Jake Higginbotham. Those 2 guys are very highly touted and have pro-level stuff, but they're true freshmen. So we want to see those guys compete against each other, against our hitters, and see how they do. Another guy that I wouldn't rule out is an Alex Eubanks. I mean, you talk about a kid that can compete. He goes out there and competes, and the one thing about Eubanks, he's going to pound the strike zone. He's going to come right after you and pound the strike zone. Another guy that could be a possibility in that mix somewhere that's going to pitch in a big role for us is Alex Bostick. Bostick has got an electric arm, and he's left-handed. When you're goofy-handed, you're a little bit harder to hit. So he's going to be a big factor for us. You could see him start. We could see him as our closer, pitch at the back end. He closed out 3 games in the Purple and Orange Series in the fall. and did exceptionally well. So, and I'm sure I'm missing, somebody, but, just off the top of my head, I could see a Crawford, I could see a Higginbotham, I could see a Eubanks in the mix, for that 3 spot. But that's what this time of the year is for, is to see who emerges out of that group to become the number 3 starter.
You talked about the urgency of fall and going through fall and trying to see what these guys are made of and developing some of the skills. Is this really for you sort of like a part 2 to the offseason where you're just kind of fine-tuning your thoughts and their skills and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. and this is this time of year is a big part for me because I've only got 3 weeks to implement everything that I want to implement with this team. Because when the season starts, when you start playing, if you're coming in, if I'm down there in right field after the game talking about, we screwed this area up, we didn't do this area very good, and I haven't done my job. When we start playing, our guys need to have been put in every situation that they're going to be put in when the season starts, and they know how to respond. So that's the big thing for me is every day counts. Every situation counts. I got to make sure that I point out every little small detail in how we play, how we pitch, how we defend, how we run the bases, so that our guys are ready when February 19th gets here. So, this is, the time is running out for me as a coach. We've got some time to get them ready, but every day counts right now for us to get our guys ready.
2-part question. Defensively, how do you feel heading into this part of the season? And then could fans see any position changes, maybe guys that are in a different spot than last year?
It's a good question. Our success this year will be dictated by how good we play defense. When you look at a pitching staff where you don't have a lot of guys that have experience, this is going to be a pitch-to-contact oriented staff. We're going to ask our guys to execute pitches and get weak contact. And if we get weak contact, we have to trust that our defenders are going to make the routine play. So defense is going to be a big factor in our success. We got to limit base runners. Some of the things that I think we've done that will help us defensively, Weston Wilson moving from third base to second base, I think has been huge for him. You take a kid who's a long-rangey athlete, very athletic kid, and you put him in the middle of the field where his athleticism can play. He's much more comfortable at second base. He turns the double play well. He's got range. You put him and Eli White in the middle of the field, those 2 guys have serious range in the middle of the field. Obviously we've got the best catcher in the country in all of college baseball in Chris Oakey, a tremendous leader, a tremendous athlete. He receives, he blocks, he throws. So we feel very good about what we have behind the plate. In the middle of the field, out in center field, Chase Pender. We moved Pender out there. Pender didn't get to hit all fall because of a shoulder injury, had shoulder surgery, and I said, look, go out there in the grass and enjoy running around all fall long because that's what you're going to get to do. And he really took to center field and has become a really good defender out there. So it's really important that that center line of the field is good for you and consistent for you. And, you got a really athletic kid in an Oakey, a White, a Weston Wilson, and Pender. Those 4 guys are very athletic and capable of making big plays. We put Adam Renwick over at third base. Rennie was our best player this fall. It's a kid that didn't get a lot of opportunities because they had some older veteran players last year. And Adam didn't play a whole lot as a true freshman. And you talk about a baseball player. This kid just squares the ball up, hits the ball to off fields, runs the bases hard. We put him over at third and worked him over there, and he's getting more and more comfortable at third base every day. First base is a question mark. That's, to me right now, the most important decision that I have to make is to try to figure out who can play first. And we're rotating a number of guys in that position. Reed Rollman's playing over there. Andrew Cox is playing over there. Chris Williams, who's a kid we signed in the summer, a catcher. We put him over there. Jackson Campana's been over there. So we've been rotating some guys over at first base. And first base is a defensive position. So many people think, just put a bat over there and let him drive in runs. Well, that guy saves you errors. You got to be able to move around the bag and pick the ball in the dirt. And it's very important that we develop a really good defensive first baseman. And then you got Seth Beer. You got Seth Beer coming in, and he's got a lot of high marks on the national level coming in here. But if you can put yourself in his shoes, this is a guy that's supposed to be a senior in high school and he's playing at the ACC level. It's very tough. It's a tough transition. I've only seen a couple guys that have done it. But Seth has serious raw power. I think he's going to be a very good hitter. We've been working him out in right field, but May move him into first base and left field as well, and we've got to develop him defensively because I think the bat's really going to play. Overall, and then we've got a couple guys in left field. Malik Gibson had a really good fall for us. Drew Wharton had a nice fall. KJ Bryant's gotten better. So we've got some options in the outfield, but I would say the most significant change would be Weston moving from third base to second and the domino effect that it has had by moving him there.
Not to single out Eli and Weston, they each had 19 errors last year. Have you looked at tape of them last year, and what kind of fundamentals have they had to work on to improve?
That's a good question. I think the big thing with Eli, because Eli plays the premium position, he's your shortstop. The biggest things that we're trying to do with Eli is just try to get him to bring the ball back into the middle of his body. He's a lot of times shortstops, because they're so athletic, they almost move too fast. They almost try to get the ball out of their glove too fast. Instead of, everything starts as a baseball player from the glove to the hand in the middle of the body. Whatever position you're at, pitcher throws from here, infielder's got to bring it to the middle. Outfielders, catchers, they all have to bring the ball to the middle of their body. And that's one thing that we saw with Eli, is just trying to get the ball centered so he can stay in his legs and make the routine play. So that's big for Eli. Eli's got to be more consistent, and he has worked his rear end off on defense. Weston is much more natural in the middle of the field. I think defensively he's got a chance to be an above average defender at second base.
You're about 7 months into this whole thing. How well do you think you've gotten them to know you from that comfort level that's kind of important as you move forward, and vice versa?
I've just tried to be myself. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think the players have responded well to it. I try to provide an environment for our players where they feel comfortable. And my number one goal is every day they come to Doug Kingsmore that they're excited about being here. You're not going to have success if your players dread practice. They got to come out here excited about the opportunity to practice and compete and get better. And you look at this baseball center that we have to house our players, they love coming here. You got more big screen TVs in that place than any place I've ever seen. You got a world-class ping pong table, and it is getting worn out on a daily basis. So our guys hang out here. They live here for the most part. Instead of hanging out at the apartment when practice is over, I got to kick them out of here. These guys love spending time together, and that helps so much with the chemistry of your ball club. But the big thing is if they enjoy being here, these guys are super coachable. Coach Leggett did an unbelievable job of developing character in kids, recruiting good kids, and teaching them that you have to be coachable to get better at this game. And so that has been an easy transition for me, because we've got the most coachable kids I've ever been a part of. I'm just being myself, just try to implement what I want to implement, and get our guys ready to the best of my ability.
Along the lines of that latter point about the fact that they're coachable ready, how much are you having to say, you know what, I know you did it this way these last few years, but I want you to do it this way, I want you to do that this way? How much of a transition is going on with that?
It's been a little bit of a transition, but I think the biggest transitions for me has been just how we practice. There's some things that in practice that I like for guys to focus on that might be a little bit different. On the offensive side of things, it's a little bit different. I want guys to, attack the ball and drive the ball. So my offensive philosophy may be a little bit different, but, overall, it's baseball. You catch it, throw it, hit it, and run the bases, and you try to get your guys to do it at a high level. And he's a Hall of Fame coach. He developed a lot of really good players and great teams. So, there's maybe some wordage and a little bit different of a philosophy in certain areas, but for the most part, that transition hasn't been that difficult for me to get our guys to play the game and practice the way that I want them to practice and play.
Coach, regarding your offensive philosophy as it relates to the running game and manufacturing runs, how do you feel about that? How do your personnel coincide with that right now?
Well, I try to coach to the personnel. I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people say he's a home run guy. He's a power guy. Well, I've just had, for the most part, hitters that had power. I've had power-oriented teams. But it's all about utilizing that player and getting the most out of that player. Malik Gibson hit low line drives, push and drag, get on base, steal bases, utilize your tools. Chris Oakey can hit it in the seats. So when he gets a pitch to hit, take your best hack. Get up there and take your best hack. Drive the ball. Reed Rollman hits the ball to all fields. You know, so all I try to do is look at a player and figure out what's the best way that I can get him to play at the highest level he can play, and what kind of team do I have. You know, if we're struggling to score runs, we may put more bunts down to try to manufacture runs. If we got the right personnel at first base and at the plate, we may hit and run some or steal some. I love to run with guys that can run, and I want guys that take their best swing. That's my offensive philosophy. You have a really good approach, take your best swing every time, and drive the baseball.
How is Grant's rehab going right now?
It's going very slow. You know, we right now I would anticipate Grant possibly having to redshirt. You know, anytime you have a labrum surgery, it's very difficult to come back from. It's a lengthy process. So I would anticipate him, Grant Cox, probably not being able to play for us this year.